Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's one of my favorite times of the month, and that is wrap-up time. Let's talk about everything I read in March. The first book that I read in March was Just Last Night by Mari McFarlane. I would say this is fiction with a subplot of romance. In this, we are following four friends, Eve, Justin, Susie, and Ed. They have been best friends since I believe it was high school, and now they're in their 30s and they all live in the same city and they always do everything together. And then one night tragedy strikes and these friends are kind of slowly torn apart by these secrets that are coming out and from the extreme grief that they're all experiencing. We are in the point of view of Eve, and Eve has always had a crush on Ed, but when this tragedy happens, she learns some secrets and it kind of threatens to pull apart their relationship. And then someone from Eve's past comes back into the picture and they start to get closer and closer. They're kind of like pulled together because of this tragedy. I ended up giving this a 3.5 stars. This has some really good quotes and some really good depictions of grief that I feel like are realistic. I think there was a lot of depth and nuance to the topics that were approached, and I feel like it was done really well. The characters felt believable and they learned and changed and grew throughout the story. I really enjoyed also the subplot of romance. I thought that it was kind of cute and unexpected. I don't know why, but I just didn't get like that 4 or 5 star feeling with this. There was also like a lot of pop culture references and like British slang that I didn't really understand. It's definitely nothing against the book, but for me, I just like didn't understand a lot of it, and I felt like the pop culture references were just maybe a little bit too much. But yeah, I don't know. I'm surprised that I didn't connect with this more. When I had first heard about this book, I thought it sounded amazing, and it wasn't bad. I enjoyed it. But yeah, I just didn't really connect with it in the way that I was hoping to, and maybe that's why my rating was lower, because I just expected to connect more with it, so my hopes were kind of high. But I definitely recommend this one. After that, I started my Throne of Glass journey. If you didn't know, this is YA fantasy. This is the first book in a 8-book series. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, 8 books. In this, we're following Selena. I believe she's 18. She's at a prison because she is an assassin. And at the beginning of the book, the prince of this kingdom comes to get her out of the prison because he wants her to fight in his father's competition. And the competition is to become the king's royal assassin or something. The king's champion. So basically like doing the king's dirty work. And the prince wants to sponsor her because she's like the best assassin in the kingdom. When she makes it to the castle, she meets all of her opponents, and slowly but surely her opponents are getting picked off one by one by this mysterious we don't know. And Selena is determined to figure out what exactly is picking off her opponents. And she's also determined to win the title of King's Champion. If she becomes King's Champion, I believe she has to work for the king for 4 years or 5 years, and then she will be free. I gave this a 4 stars. I thought this was a really fun beginning to the series. I know that Sarah J. Maas wrote this when she was like 16 or something wild like that. You can kind of tell, but it's not like so stark that like I couldn't deal with it. You know what I mean? I really liked the characters and I'm really excited to continue the series. If you didn't know, I am going to be doing a 2-part spoilers vlog for this whole entire series. So I'm going to be reading the first 4 books in part 1 and the last 4 books in part 2. I don't have a date for when those are going to be out. More than likely, it will be end of spring that the first part comes out. So if you've read the series and you want to watch my full reactions with spoilers, then definitely subscribe because those will be out hopefully soon. Then I listened to That's Not My Name by Megan Lally. This is a YA thriller. In this, we are in two POVs. We are in Mary and Drew's POVs. We start off in Mary's point of view, and she wakes up on the side of the road and she's dirty and disheveled, and she doesn't know where she is. She doesn't even know who she is. She doesn't know who she is, who her family is. She has no idea. So she makes it to the police station where a police officer is trying to help her to figure out what's going on. And then this frantic man comes into the police station looking for his daughter, but Mary cannot confirm or deny if he is her father. So they go back to this man's house with the police officer, and he provides a birth certificate and social security card, school ID, all that stuff. And the police officer leaves her with this man who seems to be her father. Then we're following Drew. After having a fight with his girlfriend ends up walking home because she needs some fresh air, but come to find out the next morning she has gone missing, and the whole town and the police in the town think that Drew murdered her, even though there is no body to be found. So Drew and his friends are determined to prove Drew's innocence, and so they essentially go behind the police's back to try and find his girlfriend. I gave this a 4 stars. I was very surprised, actually, how much I liked this. I feel like I'm not usually a YA thriller girl, but I just really enjoyed this one. It got my heart pounding. I could not stop listening to this. I think I finished it in like a day and a half. I just could not get enough. Like, I needed to know what was going to happen. It's very suspenseful, and it gets pretty intense at the end. I will say that I did guess some of what was going to happen, but there was like multiple theories. It wasn't like, oh yeah, I'm 100% sure that this is what the plot twist is or whatever. It was like I had a handful of different endings that I thought it could be, and it was one of those. Man, I really enjoyed this one, honestly. Next, I picked up Us Against You by Frederick Bachman. This is the second book in the Beartown trilogy. This is fiction. As you can see, I tabbed this like crazy. So many good quotes in here. I won't tell you like exactly what's going on in this because this is the second book, but Beartown is the first book. We're following a town called Beartown, and hockey basically runs this town. It really keeps the people of the town close-knit, and it also helps their economy. In the first one, something very intense happens, and it kind of pulls the town apart from each other, and there's kind of like two sides. I loved this. I gave this a 4.5 stars. I also gave Beartown a 4.5 stars. I say it all the time, but Frederick Bachman's writing is absolutely stunning. It's like very easy to read, but at the same time, it packs a punch. It's like every sentence means something deeper. I am so attached to these characters, and I'm very scared to start the third book because I've heard that it's devastating. I mean, every single one of these books so far has been devastating, but I'm very, very scared for the third one because I have some theories about what might happen, and I'm just worried. I'm worried about my family in this book. I was unsure if I was going to like this series because it is surrounding hockey, and I'm not a sports girl whatsoever, but I still am obsessed with this. So if you're not a sports person and you're like, I won't like that, you will. It is a lot about hockey, but in my opinion, it's like more so about like the human condition and just the way that we all think differently, but also so similarly. It's just so good, you guys. Love it. Then I read Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. This is the 5th book in the Harry Potter series. This is middle grade fantasy. I'm sure we all know what this is about. If you don't know what it's about, a quick description of the series. You're following Harry Potter, who just found out that he's a wizard. He goes to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry to get an education, and he finds out that he's famous because this Dark Lord killed his parents and tried to kill him, but he didn't end up dying, and he's the only one that has ever survived the Dark Lord killing someone. The Dark Lord is coming back to power, and in every single book, Harry is essentially fighting for his life because the Dark Lord is after him. I really enjoyed this one. Obviously, I enjoy every single one. I gave this a 4.5 stars. There's a lot in this book that is left out of the movies, and I feel like so much of this story is lost if you have never read the books. So if you haven't read the books, I highly suggest them. They're so easy to just binge right through because they are middle grade. But yeah, absolutely loved it. And then I read The Silver Chair by C.S. Lewis. This is the 6th and second to last book in the Chronicles of Narnia series. In the Chronicles of Narnia, we are following a group of kids and some like spin-off kids who are essentially transported into the world of Narnia, which is just like a completely different world than ours. It's a fantasy world with fantasy creatures, and every book is like a little adventure, and they're so fun. I ended up giving this one a 3.5 stars, which is kind of sad because there are like 4 main kids, and I've come to find that every time there is a book that doesn't involve the main kids, it's normally not as good for me because I feel like I've grown attached to those specific kids. So this was kind of like a little spin-off with different kids. It didn't have the same main characters in it, and so I feel like that kind of affected the way I felt about it, but it was still such a fun little adventure. They all are. Definitely a cute and good addition to the series. Next, I read Twilight by Stephanie Meyer. This is YA fantasy romance fantasy. It's more of a romance with fantastical elements. I'm sure we all know what this is, but this is following a high school student. She goes to live with her dad in Forks, Washington, and there she meets this guy that goes to her school, and he ends up being a vampire. And they fall in love. This series used to be such a big deal, and I used to love it. And I'm glad that it had its moment back then because it was so exciting and fun back then. I ended up giving this a 3 stars, and I only gave it a 3 stars out of pure nostalgia. I picked this up because I was starting to feel a little bit slumpy, and I find that if I just pick something up that I know and that I can just kind of fly through, that it like easily gets me back into reading, and that's exactly what it did. So I'm very glad for what it was, but if I had never picked this up before and I just picked it up as an adult, I more than likely would have DNF'd it. If I did make it through it, I feel like I would have given it maybe like a 2.5 stars, 2.75 stars. It's not good. It's not like amazing literature or anything like that. It's extremely insta-lovey, very, very cheesy, but it did its job for me. So for that, I'm happy. And if you're wondering if I'm going to continue the series, yeah. When I was like halfway through this, I was like, I'm definitely not continuing this series. I can't do it. But by the end, I was like, aw, but like that was kind of nostalgic and fun. So yeah, very mixed feelings on this one. It used to be a fave, but I have since obviously read a lot better. And the last book that I read in March was Magic Hour by Kristen Hanna. This, I believe, I don't know what genre this is. So this is definitely like a mixed genre on Goodreads. It calls it fiction, romance, mystery. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's like a mystery, I would say, with like a romance subplot. In this, we're following 2 sisters. We're following Ellie and we're following Julia. Ellie is a small town cop. She's the chief of police in her hometown. And Julia is her sister, and she went off to California to be a psychiatrist, and she's kind of like a big deal out there. But then something happens with one of her patients, and it kind of like rocks her career, and she doesn't know if she will come back from it. But right as this happens and she doesn't know how she's going to recover, Ellie ends up calling her to come home because they need a psychiatrist, because there is a little girl about 6 or 7 years old who has walked out of the woods, and she's feral. It's literally a feral child. Like, she has lived in the woods for a very long time, and somehow this child has survived living in the woods. She's like literally like an animal. She doesn't know how to speak. She doesn't know how to be a human. She just has like her basic instincts. So Julia flies out back to her hometown to try and help this girl, to get her to talk, to figure out what happened to her. All the while Ellie is trying to find her parents and look through like missing children's records and all of that to try and figure out who this girl is. I love this. I loved this. I loved this concept. I gave this a 5 stars, and that is my first 5-star read of the year. I do not hand out 5 stars very easily. Was this the best written book with like amazing prose and things? No. I think that it was just the concept of this, like the concept of a feral child and like watching Julia go through the process of like trying to get her back into the human world, and also like the thriller aspect of like trying to figure out like what happened to this girl. And it does get pretty intense and interesting. So yeah, again, not a literary masterpiece, but I just loved this story and I really felt connected with the characters. I cried because it's Kristen Hanna, obviously. I just found it really suspenseful and really like pulled on my heartstrings. And yeah, I don't know. I just got that 5-star feeling. You know what I mean? Let me know what you read in March. I would love to get some book recommendations in the comments. I always need more book recommendations, even though my TBR list is like miles long. There's always room to add more recs, so drop them down below, please. Let me know if you guys have read any of these books that I just read and what your thoughts on them are. But until next Friday, guys, bye!